Hi, it's Katrina! From mysterious ladies in the snow who will seduce you to fickle goblins trying to get into your home, here are 11 winter-dwelling beasts from folklore. Number 11. The Nuckelavee. The Nuckelavee comes from ancient Scottish folklore, and for those who lived on the Orkney Islands in the north of Scotland, it was a feared beast. The creature was thought to be one of pure evil, whose sole intent was to strike terror into the minds of the islanders. According to the old Orcadians, the only thing capable of keeping the Nuckelavee's power in check was the ocean. With a name meaning the devil of the sea, it was said to resemble a hybrid between a horse and its rider. It had a head similar to a man, but 10 times larger, with a wide mouth that resembled a pig's snout, and a red eye that burned with a red flame. The Nuckelavee had no hair, and it had no skin either. Instead, the surface of its body looked like living flesh, with thick black blood seen coursing through its veins, and muscles that stretched with every move it made. The islanders blamed the Nuckelavee for all misfortune that fell upon them, from crop failures to illnesses, and it was only until relatively recent times that stories of this beast of the north began to fade away. Number 10. The Chenoo. The Chenoo, also known as the Kiwakwa or the Apotamkin, is a beast from the folklore of Northern America around the region of Maine. The names given by the original tribes of the region translate to mean walks about the woods, and it's one of the earliest notions of a Bigfoot-like creature. The stories and descriptions vary, but there are a number of similarities. It was thought that the Chenoo was once a human and had a heart made of solid ice, one that became even more powerful when it ate a human with a similarly cold heart. They were said to be cannibalistic and would have such a disturbingly loud scream that anyone misfortunate enough to hear it would instantly die. They camouflaged themselves in the woods by rubbing themselves with pine tree resin and rolling around in the undergrowth. Then, since they looked like a tree, they could stand and wait until an unsuspecting person walked by. If a Chenoo was causing too many problems, tribes had ideas about how to kill them. One method was to make it eat salt, which would help to de-ice the frozen heart. Another was to chop its body into many pieces, and there were various recipes for potions that could cause the creature to vomit up its heart and the hearts of those that it had eaten, which would help turn it back into a human. Great! Number 9. The Tornit. The Tornit comes from Inuit mythology. According to the stories, the Inuits weren't the first to inhabit the frozen lands of the north, and they encroached upon the lands of the Tornits. They were a race of very large people who became extremely angry and tore up the ground with their lances and spears. An account of the Tornit was in the 1901 bulletin, where it was said that they would go to the houses of Inuits while the men were out hunting and kill the women and children that remained. Other stories speak of the Tornits as more friendly giants who fled the land in fear of the Inuits, so it's hard to say who really scared whom. There's a legend that says how the Inuits would build kayaks, but that the Tornits were unable to master the technique. One day, a young Tornit borrowed one without asking for permission and damaged it. The young Inuit who owned the kayak got revenge by stabbing the Tornit in the neck while sleeping and killed him. To avoid any future incidents like this, and to avoid a full-on war, the Tornits left, never to be seen again. And now for number 8. But first, be sure to subscribe if you are new here, and let us know about any mysterious beasts you may have encountered in the comments below. I'd love to hear about it. Number 8. Yuki Jiji. This creature is native to Japan, specifically the village of Hishiyama in the Niigata prefecture. Here, the locals tell the story of Yuki Jiji, which means the old man of the snow. Every year around March time, the village is beset by an avalanche from the mountains. They only occur at night and are said to be accompanied by the arrival of Yuki Jiji. The old man is as white as the snow, with white skin, white hair, and he wears a white kimono and carries a type of white staff called a hei. He rides the avalanche comfortably sitting on its crest, and the distance he travels is believed to affect the success of that year's harvest. He is thought to be an ancient mountain god, one of many known as Kami, and his staff signifies his importance. There are records of Yuki Jiji going back many generations, and there are still those who leave offerings to him in the hope that the crop will be good in the upcoming year. Number 7. The Qiqirn. The Qiqirn is another winter-dwelling beast from Inuit mythology, and one that terrifies people just from its mere mention. Described as a skittish and foolish beast, it's a bald dog spirit with many legs and thick tufts of hair only across its feet, ears, mouth, and the tip of its tail. It will run away if attacked. Those who approach the Qiqirn are said to suffer from fits and potentially death if they get too close. The creature is impossible to kill, but you can scare it off if you shout out its name. The Qiqirn gained notoriety in the West in 1895 when Rudyard Kipling featured one in a short story in his second Jungle Book novel, even though it's not a jungle story. Two Inuit children tried to follow a Qiqirn in search of food for their tribe that was starving. As long as they kept their distance, the silly spirit would help them. Luckily for them, this wasn't a Qiqirn, but two sled dogs that had become entangled. In the end, they believed the Qiqirn had been guiding them all along by sending the healthy sled dogs to help them. Number 6. Mahaha. Another demon that the Inuits believed existed in the Arctic and terrorized all it encountered is the Mahaha. It is said to be thin and sinewy, ice blue in color, and with a body that could freeze anything it touched. This creature's eyes are a bright white and pierce through the scraggly hair that covers its face. It's often depicted as smiling and giggling, walks barefoot, and wears very little clothing to protect itself from the cold. Creepy, right? When it finds a victim, the Mahaha's preferred method of torture is by tickling them with its long, sharp nails, leaving a twisted, frozen smile on the faces of any who succumb to it. Despite this creepy behavior, the Mahaha is said to be easy to trick, with most stories pointing out how gullible it is. According to legend, if you are ever unfortunate enough to meet one in the frozen tundra, you should try and get it to lean over a waterhole to take a drink. Then push it in so it gets swept away by a current. Number 5. Kallikantzaroi. The ancient Greeks told legends of countless creatures, but there's one in particular you may not have heard of, and it's arguably the most mischievous. Known as the Kallikantzaroi, these small black blind goblins live in the center of the earth, where for most of the year they try to chop down the tree of life that holds the world in position. However, during the winter solstice, these creatures emerge from the depths and bring their mischief to the surface, staying until Epiphany when they finally return to where they came from. They have long tails, speak with a lisp, and eat small animals like snails and frogs. You'll only ever encounter one at night, and they're afraid of the sun, fire, and holy water. Kallikantzaroi will find any way they can to enter your home and cause trouble, whether it be through the doors, windows, or even chimneys. Luckily, though, they are impish and stupid, and the Greeks have ways to stop them from entering. The goblins consider the number 3 to be sacred and would rather die than to say it. This means that they are only able to count to 2, which is something that can be used against them. Some people leave colanders on their doorsteps for this reason, as the Kallikantzaroi can't help but want to count all of the holes. But when they get to 2, they have to start over. They'll do this all through the night and disappear once the sun rises, saving the home from trouble. Next time you're in Greece and you see a strange object on a doorstep, just remember, there could be a very good reason for it being there, and you could well be surrounded by mischievous goblins hell-bent on ruining your day. Number 4. The Barbegazi. The Barbegazi live in the mountainous regions of France and Switzerland, and unlike most other creatures, these gnomes hibernate during the summer and only emerge once it's snowing outside. They are much shorter than humans, have pointed ears, ice blue eyes, and their hair is covered in icicles that shimmer in the light. Barbegazi have much bigger feet than other gnomes, which helps them to walk through the snow, and also allows them to dig the vast network of tunnels that they use to move around. They wear white fur cloaks, although it's not clear where the fur comes from, and you can sometimes hear them communicating across vast distances with an eerie hooting, which many people mistake for the whistling wind. The Barbegazi are regarded as the caretakers of the mountains of the region and protect the environment from any harm. They are friendly towards any humans that they encounter and are said to have helped many lost mountaineers find their way home again. Sightings are incredibly rare as they don't journey below the tree line, but a few have apparently been caught by hunters and taken to local alpine villages, but they die soon after and turn to snow. Number 3. Yuki-Onna. Yuki-Onna is the most well-known of Japanese wintry beings, with her name literally meaning the snow woman. She is said to live in snowy mountain regions where she feeds off human life for her energy and food, mainly preying on lost travelers. She's described as having ageless white skin and being as cold as ice itself. She has vivid deep purple eyes and long flowing black hair. Stories have been told of Yuki-Onna falling in love and even marrying humans, but her agelessness soon becomes apparent, so she prefers to stay in the mountains. When she finds a victim to feed on, she sucks their life force from them through their mouths and leaves their bodies to freeze in the snow. There are different versions of Yuki-Onna depending on the source material. The first mention of her was from the Muromachi period between 1333 and 1573, with some saying that she appears in December time, while others, such as the Iwate prefecture, say that she appears during the Koshigatsu, or Little New Year's, which takes place on the 15th of January. Some also say that she is friendly instead of deadly, something you'll be hoping is true if you ever find yourself lost on a Japanese mountain. Number 2. The Ijiraat. The Ijiraat is found in Inuit mythology, but it's one that shows up in one form or another in mythology around the world, the shapeshifter. Known as the Ijiraat, they are land spirits and able to take on the form of any Arctic animal in order to disguise themselves. Their favorite forms are those of ravens, bears, wolves, and even humans. But there's always one giveaway. Whatever disguise they take, they always have bright red eyes. Stories that mention the Ijiraat usually portray them as evil spirits that lie in wait for an opportunity to attack, but some tribal leaders have argued that they are, in fact, simply misunderstood. As spirits of the land, they appear in order to deliver messages to travelers, but these words are often lost because anyone who encounters them usually experiences memory loss and forgets every detail of what happened. So it's hard to tell what message they are trying to give us and why. Number 1. The Yeti. Also known as the abominable snowman, this creature comes from the folklore of Nepal. It is a tall, ape-like creature that walks on 2 legs, but is bigger than a human and covered in shaggy fur. Most of the time, the Yeti is a scary beast, and tales cautioned people to stay close to their village or town. They are said to live at high altitude in the Himalayas, and many people claim to have seen their footprints in the snow. As Westerners began to explore Mount Everest and the surrounding areas, the story of the Yeti spread like wildfire throughout the world. It was believed that an ancient people that were still wild must be out there living in the snow. Many expeditions went on to spend months in the area searching for this legendary creature. To the Sherpa, it was a mountain creature, and to the west, it became a hominoid living in the mountains. People found footprints and took plaster casts and pictures, but still no solid evidence exists. Even the Russian government organized a conference of Bigfoot experts in 2011 and an expedition that claimed with 95% certainty that they had found physical remains. It turns out that the DNA came from a prehistoric bear, so this beast remains a legend. Thanks for watching! Any other winter-dwelling creatures you'd like to share? Let me know in the comments below. Remember to subscribe and I'll see you next time. Bye!